I'm your host, Adam Messer, and my special guest today is Charles Bowen.
Hello, Adam.
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Do you mind if I call you Bo?
I would very much prefer that.
I know your professional name is Charles, but you always have Bo, and I had an uncle named Bo when I was growing up, so I just love that name. It's one of those, cool old-timey names.
I've been called that since the day I was born.
That's awesome.
I like it because if somebody calls the office and asks for Charles, then I know it's probably like a sales call.
Right. Well, everybody, Bo is a pretty interesting fellow. Ginger Fawcett was on here a couple weeks ago, and if y'all were listening in, and Bo and Ginger are a couple. And Bo is an entertainment attorney. You do a lot of different things, right?
Right. And
next week you have your Savannah Film Alliance Honors Gala.
That's it.
So we're going to be talking about that today.
All right.
So, all right, everybody, hold on for just a second here. I'm going to play my little intro. I got a new little intro, Bo. Welcome to the Adam Messer Show. I'm your host, Adam Messer, and I interview authors, artists, and entertainers. We discuss their process, how they overcome obstacles, and their creative works. I hope you enjoy the show.
Girl at the time that was going to go to graduate school at SCAD, and she convinced me. She gave me the whole look. If you go to Savannah, at least you'll know one person. You're not going to know anyone in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So she finally wore me down, and I said, you know what? Okay, I'll move to Savannah instead. Signed a lease, and then about 2 weeks later, she got homesick and moved back to D.C.
No way.
But I've been in Savannah ever since. I've been here since 95.
That's funny. I moved here the week of the Summer Olympics in '96.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And I came down here because of family. I had an aunt that married a guy from this area. I'm originally from Cincinnati, and my aunt married this guy in the late 70s and moved to Savannah. And then one by one, my mom's sisters all moved down here, and I came down here in '96, and I love it down here. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I
yeah.
love it.
So you, I think we were talking briefly before we started the show. You had a reason why you started doing the Savannah Film Alliance.
Well, right. Initially I was just doing pretty much straight corporate law with the Bowen Law Group. Mm-hmm. And then as, the film industry started taking off here in Savannah, I'd say you started seeing the first signs of it probably back around 2012. Mm-hmm. A production got referred to me just to do some local contracts, and then there was really no one in town doing entertainment law, and there was really no need for it up at that point. And then once that production left town and someone else needed some help, they referred them over to me, and it kind of grew from there.
Kind of snowballed?
Right, exactly, until entertainment law is now, one of the largest parts of my practice. So what happened is, over the next several years, 2-3 years, I noticed as I would meet with, producers, I would meet with local professional groups, I would meet with governmental entities. Mm-hmm. I would notice that there would be individuals with very similar goals. So this is what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And I'd say, well, there's this other group over here who's doing the same thing. They're trying to accomplish the same thing. Have you spoken with them? And they'd say, well, I've never even heard of them before. Yeah. So that was kind of the genesis of the Savannah Film Alliance. The idea was, let's get everybody in the industry together in one room. Mm-hmm. So that way we can, not just get to know each other, but we can all get on the same page. We can learn what we're all doing.
Yeah.
We can kind of brainstorm what are the challenges facing the industry right now. What can we do, pooling our resources and talents and, looking at things from various perspectives together to try to accomplish those goals or meet those challenges. And it ended up being very successful. So,
it's definitely taken off.
Yeah, we have several hundred members now, and we meet just 4 times a year. It's absolutely this is just a straight grassroots organization. There's no membership fee to be a member. Literally, you come to a meeting and put your email down so I can send you notice of the next meeting. That's it.
So what I'm hearing is pretty much anybody can join. It's not like a union. It's basically a group of people that kind of help each other out with referrals and that kind of thing,
Sure,
or like work coming into town, that kind of thing.
Well, like for example, like let's say
you have a Facebook group too, right?
Right. Yes, there's a Savannah Film Alliance is on Facebook, and we've got the website where you can send me an email through the website, savannahfilmalliance.org. But it's not just obviously it's primarily made up of people in the industry.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of people that support the industry that take part as well. You know, it's important to remember, Adam, that when a movie production comes to town, you know, even more so a television production, they're not just hiring local crew members.
Yeah.
You know, they need every single service that an entire community does.
Like catering. I was actually the first time I've ever been in an acting part on a television show. It's actually coming out in October, and they had, I think, 2 or 3 of their people that were from, you know, the home base, and then all the other folks were contracted out. Like one guy was from Atlanta, another guy was from Florida, you know, that they came up to do production work. The actors and the people that were interviewed were all locals that they hired for the day.
Right.
And so, you know, that's the kind of thing you're talking about, right?
Well, I'm talking about you have the direct hires, right? But then you also have the economic impact that then flows out into almost every industry in the community because they're using restaurants, dry cleaners, you know, they need Uber drivers, they do, you know, anything you can think of,
related
insurance,
stuff. Yeah,
you know, every single industry for the most part benefits when these large groups come to town for extended periods of time. So you see the economic impact not just being the direct spend. This is, we hired these people to do a job for us in Savannah, but you have an economic multiplier of that is the total economic benefit from the production, because they're also spending the money on all of these other services that they need while they're here.
Like a ripple effect.
Exactly. Yeah. So it really just, you know, you see, I mean, you could go ask many, like restaurants, for example, when a movie's here, they'll see their numbers swell because, you know, if they're filming down the street, then at the end of the day, everybody goes in there to get dinner, you know, that kind of thing. So
that we had the day of filming, they catered for us as well, and you know, it was nice. It was, you know, pretty good food, and I think that's one of the things that what you're talking about. Some folks might not understand the entire reach of that industry, and you know, it sounds like you've been not just trying to, but you've been organizing and getting people together, saying, hey, you know, this is a resource that if you need a carpenter, we can get you a carpenter. If you need somebody that, you know, needs catering or something like that, or dry cleaning or anything like that, we have somebody that this is what they do as a service.
You're exactly right. And here's one way I look at it, and I'll also talk about how if you do own a business in Savannah and you would like to cater to the entertainment industry or take advantage of that, how you can do that. But a really good way to think about it is, when you moved here in '96, that was not long after Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil had been released.
Yeah.
And if you remember, back at that time, there was that sudden explosion of tourism.
Oh, yeah.
And do you remember how there were so many complaints at first from locals, like say, oh, we've got people tromping through my front yard. These, you know, tourist buses are clogging up the squares, and you know, and those were legitimate concerns.
Growth,
you know, and the city did have to look at regulating things in such a way to address those concerns. But over time, 2 things happened. Those concerns got addressed and were handled now in a reasonable way, and also people began to understand more what a benefit tourism is to Savannah and what it brings into the city. I think the film industry right now is in a very similar position, in that you've got this sudden explosion of growth. You know, literally, it's almost doubling every year, and then, you know, you're hearing a lot of those same complaints. Everything from, they took the moss off the trees. Remember that was a controversy for a while, to, you know, well, they're shutting down the street, and you know, that kind of thing. And again, it's going to be that same combination of the city addressing those concerns and making things are handled in a reasonable manner. For example, if you do have to shut down a street, it's not unreasonable to expect that production to go out, notify every person affected, that type of thing in advance.
Right.
And at the same time, having people recognize and understand what an overall benefit it is to the entire city. And that's what will enable us to keep growing.
I think those are some great points. Let me do a station ID real quick. You're listening to WRUU LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. And if you're listening today, you can tune in on Facebook Live as well on author Adam Messer. My special guest today is Charles Bowen. Bo is an entertainment attorney, and you have your hands on a lot of things in the film industry here in Savannah. People ask you for advice all the time. I mean, you're very approachable. That's one of the things that I like. You're offering this service at no cost, and you're not charging people for the membership or whatever. They can just sign up and do that. That's not a guarantee for work or anything like that. It's just a way to say, hey, this is a network that of things that we're doing.
Right, exactly.
And I think for maybe folks think that they have to sign up and join the union, or they have to do this. So they don't necessarily have to do that in order to start getting into work in the film industry. You don't have to be an actor or a screenwriter or anything like that. You can do a lot of different things in the film industry.
Sure, and let's talk about that. If you don't mind, Adam, I would like to just put a cap on that last conversation about that economic impact here. If there are people who operate a business here that would like to take advantage of the fact that these productions are here and offer their services to these productions when they come to town.
Yeah.
There is one very easy way to do that, and that is if you go to savannahfilm.org or just Google Savannah Film Office, Savannah Regional Film Commission. It's the local film office has a database on their website for all local service providers, and that is the list that the productions use.
SavannahFilm.org?
SavannahFilm.org, right.
I'm going to pull up I'm going to pull it up.
And so there's a place on there where you can hit register as a service provider, and you can put your, yep, that's it right there. And you can put all of your information in there. But, and this is important, I do want to caution people about one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Providing services to the film industry is a little different in one way, which is when a production comes to town, they have a very limited amount of time, an exact amount of time, to accomplish a lot. So if you say that you want to provide services to the industry, you have to be prepared for that. If you're a dry cleaner, for example, and you want to provide services to a production, they may need dry cleaning services at 2 a.m. on a Sunday. So you need to understand that they will pay that premium for that service and for that convenience. But if you can't do that, then they're just going to move on to the next one.
Right.
So it's just because it is a different area, a different industry that has a lot of time constraints, and they work a lot of weird hours depending upon what they're filming, then just understand that if you do want to get involved in that, then you need to be prepared for what could be some pretty crazy hours. Yeah,
and speaking of that, it's kind of crazy that you say that, because it reminds me, growing up in Cincinnati, a lot of things were 24/7. You could do things, 2:00 in the morning and not have a problem. Savannah is still kind of a sleepy town. A lot of things are shut down overnight, and there are a few 24-hour places. But I think that's a good point. What I've noticed, and I have very limited, experience in the film industry, but the different productions or whatever I've been on and worked with, you have to be able to do it now.
Right.
You can't wait. It's not, like you said, they have a deadline. When they're ready to wrap production, it has to be done.
Oh, absolutely. And because a lot of times, those actors they have here, they have commitments to other shows starting the next week. And so they can't just say, well, it's probably going to take us an extra week. We'll just all stick around. You can't do that.
Yeah. So, they roll in and then they roll out.
Exactly. You may have somebody only for 2 days.
Yeah.
And then you've got to film it in those 2 days, or you've just missed out.
Yeah. I admired the amount of work that the folks do. being on set recently for a TV production, just watching the inner workings of that whole group, just kind of mesh together to get, the different shots done, from scene to scene. It's a lot of coordination. It's a lot of hard work. And I think one of the cool things about what you're doing is you are recognizing with the film, the Savannah Film Alliance, the Honors Gala, you're recognizing some of those key folks in Savannah to say, hey, we appreciate what you're doing for the community.
That is the entire idea behind it. You're absolutely right, because there are, let's face it, there are several people that I could say their name and you would know instantly who they are, because they're the ones that are repeatedly getting the headlines, and everyone knows them.
Like Bowen.
But there are so many people who truly are dedicating their lives to this industry, working so hard, 40, 60, 80 hours a week sometimes, to not just provide for their family, but to make Savannah just a premier filming destination, to make the filming experience here so positive. And they're the ones working behind the scenes, the ones that aren't getting those headlines. And so the whole idea behind this Honors Gala, at first we talked about, okay, do we want to do an awards show like the Emmys or the Oscars? But then you get one winner and 3 or 4 losers,
right?
And who wants to make that choice anyway? I was thinking, ultimately we decided to make it more like the Kennedy Center Honors, in that, look, there are so many deserving people. Let's just pick 8 people each year. Let's give them their moment in front of the spotlight, their moment for us all to say thank you. We appreciate, honor, and recognize, the tremendous services you're providing, and then just have it a good, positive night. And then, the one other rule I have about this is no one can win it more than once, because there's so many deserving people in town.
So if you win it in 2019, that's your award.
You are now an official honoree of the Savannah Film Alliance for life at that point.
Okay.
So, because there's just so many people each year, so many people that, the producers or directors, they leave town and they say, man, I loved working with that person. They were fantastic.
Yeah.
And
I saw the list of the folks that, and on the Facebook event page, and I mean, I know half of those folks from working with them before. And I agree with you. The other folks, I'm sure they're the same quality, as
Absolutely.
the folks. I don't know them personally, haven't worked with them before, but to just see the ones that you picked that I do know, I know that they put the work in. I know that they sweat, they bleed, they cry, they put their heart and soul into their work, and you can see it. And they're not the forefront runners to saying, "Hey, look at me." They're not the ones trying to grab the attention. A lot of times they, what I see with you too is you try to focus the spotlight on other folks. You get a lot of attention from people because, they want to see you, they want to talk with you and stuff like that. But every time I've met you or seen something that you're doing, you're real humble. And it seems like those are the kind of folks that you picked for the gala winners, that they're the workers. They're the ones doing, like you said, the stuff that's bringing the work back to Savannah. Like if the producer says, oh yeah, I love working with, Joe Schmo. I want to work with Joe Schmo again on my next project, and they have a choice sometimes on where they want to do stuff. Sometimes it's like the studio says, yeah, you got to go here. Other times they can say, oh, I really like working in Savannah. I want to go back to Savannah.
Right.
And I want to work with, if I'm going there, I want this guy who did, all my costumes or whatever, or this lady or whatever. They have that, that direction of choice. So I think that's pretty cool that you're doing that.
Yeah, it is fun. And I do want to say, I didn't select the winners personally. What we did is we put a committee together of people that really work daily with productions and on set and on that would know far better than me. I'm in my office 90% of the time.
Right.
So exactly, what's going on there on the set. And so they had an extremely difficult time narrowing it down to 8.
I bet you they had a huge list at first.
They did. And but the fact that we want to make this an annual event, and we know that this isn't the last time people can, it's not a one-shot thing. So there's be plenty of time, fingers crossed, to honor other people in the future.
Yeah.
So
well, it seems like it's a big hit already before the show even starts, and that's next Saturday, right?
Yeah, this upcoming Saturday. It's going to
Where
be a
are
lot
you
of
doing
fun.
it at?
It's at Victory North. They're on the corner of Whitaker and Victory, the new venue over there.
Okay.
It's really exciting. We're going to have West 43rd Street, which runs on the north side of the building, completely shut down, and that's good. The entrance is going to be at the corner there of West 43rd and Whitaker.
Okay.
And so when you walk in, you're essentially entering old Hollywood at that point.
Yeah.
There's we're going to have some old cars from the 1930s, several photo opportunities, amazing, live
red carpet,
red carpet,
the
absolutely,
velvet ropes and all
paparazzi, you name it, everybody, it's really going to be a fun night. A lot of special events. One thing I'll tell you about, I haven't really talked about before, that is going to be happening during the first hour. There's 2 levels of tickets. There's a VIP ticket and a general admission ticket. Yeah. And the VIP ticket, one of the added benefits of it is you get to come in an hour early, between 6:30 and 7:30.
Oh, you get kind of a preview, huh?
Right. And during that first hour, there's going to be this immersive dance experience. And what that is, I didn't know what this was either. But there's going to be 6 or 8, I don't remember off the top of my head, I think it's 6 dancers, all dressed as the spirits of old Hollywood.
Oh,
and they're going to be dancing throughout the crowd, just kind of.
Are they going to be like people like Clark Gable and people like that? Like are they going to be character actors?
I don't know if they are going to be dressed as specific people, because I've never seen anything like this before either. Or if they're just dressed in old Hollywood garb.
Yeah,
but they're not going to be dressed like ghouls.
No,
like
we're not
zombies
talking
or anything. Ghosts but I think
of black and white movies when you say that. When you said that, I was like, oh, yeah.
that whole ethos of old Hollywood, and they're going to be, filtering in and out of the crowd. Just a little added touch for, to make it just a special night for everyone.
Well, that is so awesome, Bo. Let me do a station break real quick here. Everybody, you're listening to WRUU LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul.
Tonight on WRUU, tune in at 6:30 for Random Note, a themed magical musical journey. At 8, In the Pocket presents jazz, funk, soul, gospel, and more. At 9, Evening Eclectic is a show with no musical boundaries. And at 11, we bring you an hour of locally produced music. Our latest schedule is always at WRUU.org. Thanks for listening.
Wow. I tell you what, Bo, I really appreciate you being on the show today. I can't believe it's already almost been a half an hour. So back to the gala, the Honors Gala. I saw you still had a limited number of tickets left.
Sure. We have both VIP and general admission tickets still available. We've still got about, as of this morning, had about 50 tickets left.
Yeah. I know that 50, it sounds like a large number, but that goes quick. Especially, I think that I know that some of those acting groups and some of the other groups in Savannah have like thousands of members just on the Facebook groups.
Right.
So, I think it's going to be a neat event. You were talking about the dance immersion experience before we had the little station break.
Right.
Can you tell me more about that?
Sure. It just goes along with the theme of old Hollywood, and the event itself, while it's just semi-formal, we're not expecting people to go out and rent tuxes, but we do encourage anyone that really wants to come and get to the spirit of it to dress in accordance with kind of an old Hollywood type theme. And then we actually have a professional costume designer that's worked on dozens and dozens of movies in the wardrobe department who's going to judge and pick the best dressed of the VIP ticket holders.
Oh,
and
okay.
in terms of the person that most embodies that theme of old Hollywood. And so she's going to pick a top 5, and then during the ceremony where we recognize the honorees, she's going to announce the winner, and that person is also going to get a big, nice trophy as the best dressed.
That's cool because people love swag. I think that's so cool, and especially it kind of gives you like an incentive to even go all out on it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I couldn't decide what I was going to do, and I went over to Jay Parker over there on Broughton Street, and they rent tuxes.
Yeah.
And I was looking and talking to the people there, and I was like, I really want something old timey. Do you have like an old tux with tails? And so they were like, I don't think we have anything. So we ended up calling the company where they get their tuxes, and they found like this old like Clark Gable tux.
Oh,
I'm like,
wow.
no one ever rents this. I'm like, I'll take it.
That's the one. That's the one. It's in my size. What do you mean? That is awesome.
So it will be fun. And then, there's like I said, there's so many great sponsors that are donating so many fantastic things that night. It's really going to be a lot of fun.
Let me, do you mind if I pick your brain about some of the inner workings of, like how a person outside of like service industry stuff, like let's say talent wise, people that want to get into, the business. You have this article on Carriage Trade PR, so talking about how to get into the film industry.
Sure.
And can we talk a little bit more about that?
Sure, absolutely.
Because there are a lot of folks out there that like, oh, I'd like to do that, and they just have no idea where to start.
Well, let me preface this conversation by saying, I was involved in a effort about probably, I'm going to say a couple of years ago now, to bring a soundstage to Savannah. That's one of the things that the local entertainment industry is missing is a soundstage. And we have some smaller stages here, but not a full-size Hollywood stage that, where like a television series could come in and set up shop for months and months. And Atlanta has over 60, and Savannah has none. So until we have that infrastructure, it's going to be difficult to really grow beyond a certain point here in Savannah.
Right.
But the other part of that, what I thought was the reason we needed one of those here is because the entertainment industry does give a path to great paying jobs to people that right now are very underemployed in Savannah. You always talk about, Savannah, people complain about the poverty rate, and they say, well, we need things like low-income housing to address that issue. Well, that's a Band-Aid. What we really need is a cure. And one way to effectuate a cure is to actually find a way for these folks that are unemployed right now to become employed. And that's one thing the film industry offers because, there are so many crafts and trades where you can learn from the ground up and really, start as, just, coming in and just on the ground floor, cutting your teeth and learn very quickly these trades and skills. And then, once you are a member of the union or you're a member of the first team on any of these productions, you're talking about jobs, again, hundreds per year in Savannah that are in the neighborhood of $60,000 to $80,000 with health benefits, retirement. These are great jobs, not just, minimum wage jobs, working at a fast food place or whatever. It really is something that could make a huge difference in town. So
that's one of the things I think people have talked about is the skill sets that are lacking, because, like you said, that's a way to help. And I agree with you. Employment and education, I think, are two of the most important things for helping eliminate poverty. Savannah, there's a lot of opportunity, I think, as well. But one of the complaints that I've heard about Savannah is that we lack the talent and the skills for the pool of people that are here. And so, I know that Savannah Tech's got their program. I think there's a Georgia, I'm trying to think of the name of it. I know that there's another program where they talk about, like doing those things. Ed Susevich, the show that you were on, he did the sound program. He's a sound producer. So, there are people
Georgia Film Academy?
Yeah, the Georgia Film Academy.
Right, that's part of Savannah Tech.
Yeah,
right.
And so the folks that are starting to build up these skill sets here so that they don't have to, bring somebody from Atlanta or Jacksonville or whatever.
And that's important because, the people that are here are being employed. And let me explain. It kind of goes into a little bit deeper conversation, but we have time today, so we'll go into it.
We got until 5 o'clock.
One of the big areas in movie production that people don't understand very well are the unions.
Yeah.
Okay, because the entertainment industry is one of the few industries remaining that is almost exclusively union driven and union controlled.
Mm-hmm.
And so while you can film a movie non-union in Georgia, it's very rare, particularly if it's a production of any size.
Yeah.
And the unions, there are multiple unions on every production. So, for the actors, you have the Screen Actors Guild.
Yeah.
For many of the crew members, you have the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. For drivers, you have the Teamsters. And,
for the electricians, you have the IBEW.
Sure, exactly.
Yeah.
And those unions are actually great for two reasons. One is they make certain that their members are being fairly paid and treated, but more importantly, for safety reasons.
I'm so glad that you brought up safety.
That is the key. That is the real reason that the unions are almost mandatory in the entertainment industry, because left to their own devices, there are very few directors that would not say, let's just do it one more time. And the next thing you know, you've just worked 18 straight hours without a break.
Yeah.
So those safety reasons are crucial, and that's why those unions are so valuable and important.
I'm so glad that you brought up safety. I do industrial electrical work, and I used to work at a college, and then I'm changing careers now. So I'm actually in a union. I'm in the IBEW, the local 508 here. And safety is so undervalued when it comes to people that don't work in an industry. The film industry, there's a lot of working parts. You work with different teams. You work with different people from different backgrounds and things like that, different skill levels. But safety should be one of those things that people bring to the forefront of their mind, I think.
Well, unfortunately, in Savannah, we had a tragic reminder of that several years ago with Sarah Jones.
Right.
And that was a non-union production, did not have a safety coordinator on set. Mm-hmm. And tragically, we had a young lady, they were filming on some railroad tracks, and she was killed by a train.
And they had several other people that were injured, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's the type of thing that absolutely cannot be allowed to happen and recur. So I think that really put Savannah on the radar of the unions at that point. And that, to me, that's a very, very good thing, because we have not had any major accidents since that time.
Knock on wood.
So, but the safety is absolutely the highest priority.
It's kind of weird, but after I did the, and like I said, I'm just kind of dipping my toes into doing some different things or whatever. So I had this first experience of acting, and I have my OSHA 30 training for construction. And one of the things that I thought about was safety. And I wrote this little blurb, and I shared it in a couple of these little groups about safety. Just about basic things. What is something that I think they have an OSHA 10 that people can do for maybe $20 or $25 or something like that? Is that something that the Film Alliance or one of the unions might be offering in the area?
IATSE, International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, which goes by IATSE or the IA. That's the union that represents the bulk of the crew.
Yeah.
The hair and makeup has their own union. Camera has their own union. Mm-hmm. But the majority are in IATSE, Local 491 here in Savannah. And they do have safety classes. Okay. And they're for, I'm not going to say 100% certain that they're both for union members and non-union members, but I can't imagine just knowing the union leadership like I do, that even if somebody is non-union and wanted to attend, that they would say, sorry, you can't come learn about safety. You know, I mean, because it is such vital importance.
Yeah, I think when you start your day off with like, okay, this is what we're doing, you know, lay out, you know, the project or whatever for the day, and you focus on how people can be safe, because you know, there's a lot of different topics of safety that can help save lives. You know, not just in this situation with a train accident, but also, you know, for example, hydration. You know, we live in Savannah. It's hot. It's humid. A lot of, you know, there's a lot of sets where you might not be in air conditioning. You might be sitting outside for 8 or 10 hours or whatever. You know, and those are some of the things I think people don't really think about, is like hydration, or, you know, someone who might be diabetic or whatever, you know, those other, you know, areas.
Just, you know, being out in the heat for a certain number of hours at a time, you know, all of those things, it's, you know.
And unions, they fight for the rights for the workers.
Absolutely.
So,
they have,
you know,
very clear rules on how many straight hours you have to can work, how often you have to be given meal breaks, you know, how many days in a row you can work, those type of things, all designed to protect the employees, the workers, and keep them safe.
Yeah. I'm glad that you brought up the topic of safety, because I feel like it's really important. And I think, you know, would you agree if someone's just getting into the industry that would be something that's kind of put up front and say, hey, let me take the time to learn a little bit more about safety, about my industry that I'm getting into?
Yeah, absolutely. And they can, you know, to me, it ought to give new people coming into the industry peace of mind,
right,
that this has been a concern and it has been addressed, and people are looking out for them to make certain, because you know how it is in any industry, the music industry, any industry where you have people that are just starting out, they make easy prey.
Oh yeah,
and people can take advantage of them.
Yeah,
so these unions are there to make certain that doesn't happen.
I'm glad that you brought that up, honestly, because that was something that concerned me, just work and just being, you know, on a on set location. It wasn't, you know, like a film set or anything like that. It was just on location downtown, and I was like, you know, there are certain things that, you know, to me, because I'm so hyper aware of like safety and what I have to do with my job, that I noticed those things right off the bat.
Right.
And but you know, to an untrained eye or someone brand new, like you said, they're easy prey, because they don't know what questions to ask. Sometimes they don't know what to look for, and they might not know, hey, this, if you do this, it's going to be an unsafe act, and you know, you could get hurt or someone else could get hurt.
Sure. And you know, and you want, if you want so desperately to break into the industry, and somebody, okay, we're going to let you work on this major motion picture, but we're going to need you to work 16 hours. Okay, if that's what I have to do. Right. You know, you don't want people being able to do that.
There are a lot of folks that say, oh, I'll do it for, you know, I'll work for free, just so I can get the credit. So I was like, you know, that's not really the best thing in the world. Sometimes you got to do that, you know, collaboration, stuff like that. But I always tell people, like, when I'm talking to freelancers or other folks, I'm like, get paid, get your money. You know, if you've got to do something, make some volunteer hours or something like that, that's different. But don't work for free. You know, don't just say, I'm going to do it just because you want that opportunity.
Well, that's one of the great things about what they're doing at Savannah Tech with the Georgia Film Alliance, which is, you know, you not only take the classes to learn the specific skills you need on movie sets, but then they also find you internships on productions that are filming here, so you can get that credit in a supervised atmosphere, you know, with someone making certain that everything is safe and covered, and then you're ready to come out after that and actually start working.
And you have some relevant working experience. I think that's a wonderful thing, especially in the area, you know, like you were talking about 20 years ago. I mean, it was just kind of just starting with some of the movies and things like that. Now it's almost like Savannah's a destination location. You know, that's where they want to come to the area because of the amenities, and you know, you can have someone walking down the street and not be mobbed by a bunch of paparazzi or whatever.
Right. Well, if you look at just the numbers, you just go back to 2012. The total economic impact in Savannah of the film industry in 2012 was $25 million.
Oh, wow.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
But now, fast forward just 6 years to 2018, and that is now over $250 million.
Wow.
So 10 times more just since 2012. And 2019, we're September now, has already eclipsed 2018, still with more than 2 months to go.
Wow.
So, or more than 3 months to go. So it's, the industry really is growing despite, there are obviously some concerns with what's going on in the Georgia legislature, but
I want to talk about that too. I'm glad that you brought that up. Do you want to switch seats here? This is awesome. I'm not going to really give my opinion about the heartbeat bill, but can you give us your professional take on it?
Sure. Well,
and this is coming from you're an experienced entertainment attorney. You understand the law. You also advocate for protections of the employees and the rights of the workers. So you have maybe a little bit more elevated understanding than just the regular layperson that's out there.
Well, let's just talk about the law itself and sort of what the issue is.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I guess the people that are opposed to the law are trying to do is maintain the status quo, maintain what has been the law since the 70s, since Roe versus Wade. And what the law is under Roe versus Wade is that a state is not allowed to restrict a woman's right to an abortion up until the fetus is viable, up until viability, which is typically in the neighborhood of towards the end of the second trimester. Once that occurs, then a state can absolutely restrict abortion or outlaw abortion at that point. So the law it's not, there's in no way is it, ambiguous or up for debate. Everyone knows that's the law, even the people that are advocating for these heartbeat bill abortion bans. And so what that law says is in Georgia, abortions are going to be illegal once the doctor is able to detect a fetal heartbeat, which is typically in the neighborhood of 6 weeks, which is why they call it the heartbeat bill. It's really, it's an abortion ban is what it is. Okay. But because Roe versus Wade is crystal clear that you are not allowed to do that until viability at about 6 months into the pregnancy instead of 6 weeks, even the people that passed that law know right now that is an unconstitutional law the way that it is structured. But they will also freely admit that the hope is that it will almost certainly get struck down at the circuit court level. At the district court level. It will then be appealed to the circuit court. That being struck down as unconstitutional will get upheld again, almost certainly. I'd say 99% chance, and that's what's happened in every other state that this has been a similar law has been considered. But all of these states are hoping then that through that process, the U.S. Supreme Court will then decide to review one of those circuit court cases and then overturn Roe versus Wade. That's the ultimate goal for the people that are passing these laws. They know it's not constitutional as it's written now, but they're hoping this can be used as the impetus to ultimately change the law at the Supreme Court level. So with that factual background, where, it offers a very difficult, extremely difficult dilemma to a lot of people in the industry. I would say personally that the vast majority of people, I don't want to put a percentage on it, but it certainly seems, 90% or more of the people I meet kind of fall into a category of being anti-abortion but pro-choice, meaning that they understand, gosh, that's not something I would ever want to do or want one of my family members to do. I also don't believe it's my job to make that decision for other people. That's sort of for every woman that's in that position, she's got to make her own decision on that. So I think anti-abortion but pro-choice is probably the most common feeling that most people I know subscribe to. Now, so you have a lot of people in the industry that they can be very much anti-abortion, but at the same time recognize how this law may impact their ability to make a living and may impact their livelihood. So it puts them in a very difficult position.
Right.
And there's no right answer for those people. So I think here's the danger. You have certainly already you have people saying Georgia should be boycotted just for passing this law.
Right.
But luckily, the governor, knowing, I haven't asked him, but I'm pretty sure, knowing it was going to be challenged, built in that provision where it would not go into effect until January of 2020 to give this whole litigation time to play out. So we have this window for it to be challenged to determine whether or not it's going to go into effect.
Okay.
And all of the people that I've spoken to, all of the studios, and at the very beginning, I was heavily involved in reaching out to, Amazon and Netflix and Universal and everyone I could think of to say, before you make a decision to boycott the state of Georgia, let's give the legal process the chance to work. Let's,
because it was almost like overnight, just a very hot topic.
Oh, absolutely. And luckily, where the vast majority ended up, coming down was, we're going to continue to film in the state of Georgia. We're going to wait and see if the law actually goes into effect. We're going to give the legal process time to work, give the judge time to review it. And then if it were to actually go into effect, then we would make a decision on whether or not to actually boycott. Yeah. And that's a very real threat. That is something that I wouldn't say.
There have been a couple actors already that said that they won't film in Georgia.
Oh yeah, there's definitely been a few.
Yeah,
it's had an effect, just not a cataclysmic effect, or it hasn't decimated the industry. But ask North Carolina after the bathroom bill. When it went into effect, it can make a huge difference if you take a law that people view as being discriminatory or against gay rights, against women, against something that restricts people's freedoms. This is an industry that cares about that very, very much, and so it is not just an idle threat. I think that it would have a tremendous impact should it actually go into and become a law and become effective on the books. But I am confident in the legal process that the law will ultimately be held to be unconstitutional. Therefore, it won't be an issue we'll have to worry about.
So breaking that down for the average person listening, because they're probably people that they aren't in the film industry. They just want to, they want to listen today to, just listen to this because it's something different, something interesting for them. What does that mean to the average? So we were talking about the economic impact earlier, right? And then you just went from 25 million to 250 million.
Right.
And we're talking about, all the different jobs that have been created since then. What does that mean to the average person here in Savannah that they might have a mom and pop business, down on Broughton Street? What does that impact mean to someone like that?
Well, it's a tremendous impact. I think if you looked at the economic pillars of the Savannah community, you've got tourism, you've got the port and logistics, you've got military, you've got education, and you've got entertainment. Those are the 5 main pillars right now of the Savannah economy. So if you knock one of those 5 pillars out, you're going to have, a tremendous effect. You're going to have some domino effect across all of those industries, but certainly if you knock one from $250 million down to almost zero overnight, everyone is going to feel the impact of that. Yeah. No matter what industry you're in. It's like we talked about before, these productions coming to town, they infuse cash into pretty much every industry operating.
Yeah. And it was, odd thought here, but did you see Avengers Endgame?
Sure.
You know that final scene where all of the actors were on that same set?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were talking about that one shot was like one of the most expensive shots in the whole movie, outside of CGI, because they had all those folks on set at the same time. And it's interesting because even like the small little thing that I did, there were a lot of people that were working that day,
Absolutely,
on one project.
When the television series Underground was here, this was back in the time when I was involved in the effort to try to purchase the Coastal Empire Fairgrounds and put a studio there. I got some numbers from the director of Underground, and they had employed, I think it was in the neighborhood of 7,000 people over the course of that show locally.
Wow.
So that shows you, the impact it can have.
I remember at the time when that was through here, a friend of mine was like, "Hey, they need extras," but I was working and I couldn't get away. And it's amazing how much people don't think about how much money is flowing through Savannah just because of the film industry. $250 million, that's a huge impact.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we're talking about just Savannah, right?
Absolutely.
So, those outlying counties, those outlying cities, all those things, all those places are affected as well, because we got the airport, we got all these different restaurants. I mean, look at Pooler. Look at how much Pooler has grown up, just the last 10 years or so, down Pooler Parkway. So you have people that are staying in different places. They don't just stay just downtown. They stay all over the place. So,
and we were talking about before, the productions wanting to hire local people. Well, there's a reason for that. It's because, as we were talking, all starts tying together because, of course, we talked about earlier that the entertainment industry is driven by unions.
Yeah.
And so what that means for the uninitiated is that when you go to film a production, you sign an agreement with the union on how you are going to treat the workers and how much you have to pay the workers on each individual production. It's called a collective bargaining agreement. And in that agreement, you have to pay a certain amount for different categories of workers. Now, local employees get paid, a certain rate, but anyone that's called a distant hire, that's from more than 60 miles away, you additionally have to pay them a per diem, additional money each day for lodging and food and other things that you don't have to pay locals.
Yeah.
So if you have a skilled local versus a skilled person from out of town, they definitely want to hire the local person.
Automatically cheaper for them.
Absolutely, significantly cheaper.
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands of dollars cheaper per person just to hire someone local.
Yeah, because if you think about some of the stuff is not just a day or two. They're not just in for, like you said, 7,000 people for, the Underground Railroad show, right?
Right.
That's a huge number of people to put on one project. Gulfstream, they have, 5,000 employees or something like that, that they have year round, to pump in 7,000 jobs for 90 days or 6 months or however long a project is. You're putting people to work for that period of time, and that helps them lead to other work.
Yeah, it's interesting, Adam, because that's one of the reasons that you would think just, from outside looking in before you start thinking about it, well, what you really want is a big Hollywood movie, a Marvel movie or something. No, what you really want is a television series.
Yeah.
Because it's here for a long time. Think about it like this, okay? Let's take my profession.
Yeah.
I'm an attorney. And let's say I have a business where I do personal injury and divorce law, and I bring in $1 million a year. And I'm going to now sell my practice to another attorney. Now, I have another business law firm that brings in $1 million a year, but it has all corporate clients. Which one is more valuable? The one that once those clients have resolved their injury case and their divorce, they're gone, and they don't need you anymore, or the corporate clients that keep using you every single month,
over and over again,
over and over again.
Yeah.
Obviously,
residual income, and
the $1 million personal injury and divorce firm is not worth nearly as much as the $1 million corporate firm because of that reason. Same thing with movies versus television. A movie may come in and spend a lot of money, but it may only be 60 or 90 days.
Yeah.
Whereas a television series, they typically film for about 9 months, just one season.
Yeah.
You get something like The Walking Dead.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Ask the cities up there how much money that's pumped into their economy.
I mean, it's changed the landscape, I think, in a
Absolutely.
lot of ways. I mean,
and you've got tourism booming because they want to go see where The Walking Dead is filmed.
Yeah. It's like, that's where Daryl, shot so and so.
Exactly. Yeah. So television is really where it's at, and it's a little bittersweet to me because there's a series on AMC called Preacher. Based on some comic books, and after they filmed season 1 in Albuquerque, and at the end of season 1, they wanted to move, and they had narrowed it down to either Savannah or New Orleans. And it took the comics took place that season in New Orleans, but certainly you could make Savannah look enough like New Orleans. And they loved the fact that you could get the Georgia tax credits here.
Right.
They loved that Savannah was offering a local incentive through CETA on top of the state incentive, and they loved all the people here. They loved the locations. They loved, everyone they dealt with. But they had to have a soundstage. And so when we were approaching the city about the Coastal Empire Fairgrounds, we said, look, if you'll approve this, we already have a television series that is wanting to come in, 10 episodes, $6 million budget an episode, $60 million right there, and still did not get approved. So, I mean, but those are the kind of things, if we can keep attracting television series to our area, then you're going to see the industry be just fine.
Yeah. Hallmark does a lot of stuff here too, right?
Oh, they do.
Yeah. Let's do a little station break. Give me just a second here, Bo. You're listening to WRUU LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. And my special guest today is Charles Bowen. And Bo, you sure have a lot going on. I'll tell you what. We have been talking about a ton of stuff, and I'm so glad, that the heartbeat bill is such a touchy subject for people. It's one of those things. I don't talk about politics on this show. I usually talk to authors, artists, and entertainers. That is such an important issue, though. I think it had to be addressed. I think I appreciate you sharing that with us, and your giving your professional breakdown, because I honestly didn't really understand everything going on with it. I'm not in the film industry. I do stuff here and there. But, I'm an outsider, so, I'm glad that you were able to share that with us. And I'm sure there's people on both sides of the camp and saying, no, and then other people are like, no.
Well, of course. and I think that's sort of the point. Like, I'll give you first, let me, going back to just the legal aspect of it for a minute.
Yeah.
There's actually a hearing next week in the case where the judge in the district court is going to decide whether or not to enter an injunction stating that the law is not allowed to go into effect on January 1st, 2020 until the case is decided.
Okay.
And that is a crucial hearing, because if the judge grants that injunction, then everyone involved in the industry can at least breathe a sigh of relief that come January 1st, 2020, you're not suddenly going to have this mass boycott of the state because of the law going into effect. And it doesn't mean that you've won. It just means that, the law won't change until the final decision is forthcoming.
It actually lays the groundwork to say, hey, let's review this judicially, like you said.
Right. Before having all of the mass, what could be very detrimental effects, both for people personally and economically for several industries, not just the entertainment industry.
That's I'm glad that you brought that up. That's a good point, because I think people, it was a very hot topic at first. People were talking about it all the time at first, and I haven't seen a whole lot about it lately.
Well, this week you're probably going to see a lot about it again, because they're going to have that. Now the hearing is this week. That doesn't mean the judge is going to rule from the bench.
Right.
He may take it under advisement and wait until December 31st to release that ruling, but everybody's hoping he rules very quickly and makes a decision so people can plan forward from there. Now, going overall now, more meta to kind of the merits of it. it is a extremely touchy, controversial subject. But for that reason, I think, it's protecting individual freedoms. That's why it's so important.
Yeah.
So, you have, like, for example, you have people that say, I should have the right to be in favor of the law without being attacked. I should have the right to be against the law without being attacked. I agree. Both people should.
Right.
Everyone has freedom of choice.
Right.
People say, the people of the state of Georgia should be allowed to decide what our laws are without, Hollywood interfering. But then you have women saying, well, the women of the state of Georgia, should be allowed to decide what we want to do with our bodies without the legislature interfering. So, there's always two sides. And because of that, it's, to me, everyone has to make up their own mind on things. Yeah. That's why choice is so important. Let me give you another example.
Yeah.
Think about a few years ago. Well, the big hot topic then was gay marriage.
Right.
Remember?
Right.
And
I remember at first President Obama said he was against it, and then he passed the executive order or whatever saying it was okay. And I think love is love to me, honestly.
Right. The Supreme Court ultimately held that you were not allowed to discriminate on the basis of sexual orientation when it comes to marriage. So, which legalized gay marriage in one fell swoop all the way across the country.
And now, looking back, it's like, why did this take so long to make
exactly.
it happen?
But do you remember
gosh,
before it happened, all of the gnashing of teeth, the sky is falling,
oh my gosh,
society will implode if this happens? And guess what? Everything went on completely normally the next day. Right. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
This being allowed, people having the freedom to do it, that didn't mean that everyone was suddenly going to be forced to get gay married if you're not gay.
Right,
the same thing. You absolutely have the freedom to not get gay married. You also have the freedom to not get an abortion if you don't believe in abortion and you don't want it. The problem is taking it upon yourself to make that decision for other people, not knowing the situation they're in.
Right.
And that's and restricting rights that otherwise they would have. That's why I think, to me personally, it's important that you look back at the Supreme Court and the arguments that were being made at the time when Roe versus Wade was being decided, and they really did try to strike a balance of, no, you have people that think you should be allowed to have an abortion all the way up to 9 months. No, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be allowed to ever have one, even in cases of rape or incest. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's what they tried to do, and I think successfully, was find a middle ground. You have the right up until the moment that fetus can survive on its own, and then that is now taken out of your hands. Now, I think that is a very reasonable approach. And the way it was looked at back then, if you look at your history, was, Roe versus Wade did not, create abortions. It didn't start abortions.
Right.
What it did was Roe versus Wade stopped people dying from abortions, is what it did. And so that's why this is still a crucial argument even today, and why it's so important to, protect these rights.
And it, the threat of an industry leaving, that's one thing, but to me, ultimately, it goes back to the individual rights, and with Hollywood, people complaining about Hollywood this and Hollywood that. Sometimes I think that people need to take a step back and say, well, why is it so important to them? Why are they concerned about this? Why would they say something about it? Just like you were saying about the gay marriage thing, how many people were on the wrong side of that? Looking back, and I'm like, yeah, this is kind of crazy. But that was a huge issue back then.
Absolutely.
And it's still, gay and the LGBTQIA. I'm not sure all the numbers or the letters or whatever, but the community, there are a lot of issues with, protecting rights for them, women's rights, minority rights, people of color, things like that. And I'm glad that there are people out there that, like yourself, that understand the law and also can advocate for people, because, I'm not an attorney. I have an understanding of what's going on to a level, but I don't understand some of the other inner workings. Like I really didn't know much about Roe versus Wade, other than the stuff that you learn in high school. I didn't understand that when you said that it stopped people from dying from abortions. It's like, oh, wait a minute, that's something that never thought about. What are the safety or health issues that are involved with this bill? And the political peacocking or positioning or whatever that, like you said earlier, they know that this bill is unconstitutional, but that's not what their goal is, or that's not what their aim is. So it's like, okay, well, what are the agendas there? What are the reasons why these folks are trying to, they know that there's going to be an economic impact, but what ultimately are they trying to do? So I'm glad that the it sounds like with the hearing next week that if they put this injunction in, it's at least saying, hey, wait a minute, we're not going to bulldoze this through, even though this got this far.
Right.
Let's take a step back and say, is this really what's best for the people? Is this infringing on people's rights? So I'm glad that,
Georgia has always, to me, one of the reasons I love the state of Georgia is I've always thought of Georgia as being very progressive, being on the forefront of, being a fantastic place for people of all colors and ethnicities and sexual orientations, and it doesn't matter. This is a place you can come where you will be treated with respect, that it's a fantastic state in which to do business. And anytime these laws come up to that can be clearly seen as discriminatory in some way, it just really tarnishes Georgia's reputation overall.
Yeah.
I hate that.
I do too, because a lot of folks that, I grew up in Cincinnati, and most of my best friends are down here. I've been down here pretty much my entire adult life. I came down here when I was like 19, almost 20. So, I feel like you grow up as a kid and then you have, like a second growing up, you're like growing up as an adult. You're like, okay, this is the adult world. And that kind of stuff to me, like the racism or the sexism or, the abortion rights thing, that kind of stuff, when people are negatively impacting other folks, it tarnishes all of us. And they're not going to say, oh, well, Bo Bowen's a cool guy. They're not going to do that. They're going to be like, well, Georgia, well, let's just all pull out of Georgia.
Right, absolutely. And the problem with that, particularly in this situation, is who is going to suffer are not those legislators. It's going to be the people actually in the industry here in the state. Yeah. That's who's going to suffer. So
I agree with you.
Anything we can do to protect them, that's my goal.
And I think when you were talking earlier about the unions and collective bargaining, that's another thing with the unions, that they have attorneys and lobbyists and things like that help, protect the interests of the union members. So we like, I'm in the IBEW, we pay our dues, we pay our assessments and things like that. And there's times where, something comes out of the blue and you're like, what in the world? Who was thinking about that? Did they ever actually work a day in that industry?
It's funny.
Yeah.
Well, taking this whole conversation full circle, because there has been so much, controversy and fear and unrest related to all these topics, going on politically.
Yeah.
That is another reason I think this gala coming up next weekend is so important, because it's so important that we have a night where we can set all of that aside.
Have just a good old shindig.
Just have fun. Remember what this industry is. Film and television industry is about fun. It's about entertainment. It's about, positivity.
Escapism.
Exactly.
Enjoying, like a couple hours of free time.
So no one is going to be making political arguments at the Savannah Film Alliance Honors Gala. It's all going to be about just fun
Yeah.
and great food and open bar and great music. We've got, Ginger's performing. I know you had her. Trey Gurley's going to be singing there. Don't know if you know
Her
Trey.
album's just been taking off, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. She's been doing great.
Yeah.
And,
Fly on the Wall, everybody, by Ginger. And Liquid Ginger is also going to be performing.
Right, they're going to be performing the after party out in the courtyard out there at Victory North after the program, and it's like I said, there's just going to be a lot of surprises for the VIP ticket holders. Everybody gets a swag bag.
Oh, okay.
And this was my rule. I'm gonna give a little sneak preview. I said, I have been to conferences where you get like a goodie bag.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you open it up, and what do you get? It's like a piece of
tablet,
crap pen.
yeah.
It's a.
Yeah.
Well, this is all going right in the
squeezy ball
garbage
or something.
So my rule for this swag bag was let's go with quality over quantity.
Nice.
And it
Nice.
turns out not only did we get some great items, but we had some companies step up to donate some things
you had
that
some
are going to go into
You got quite a
few
few
of the
sponsors
bags.
for this.
Yeah, we have a lot of sponsors,
Yeah.
and we're going to like, for example, the Mansion has donated a 2-night stay with a spa package.
Oh, wow.
And that's just going to be, there are 8 sort of little grand prizes that are going to be just interspersed.
So like maybe one of the costume
among
winners
all
would get
the-
something like that.
It's just, we're going to, so if you get that swag bag, look at it very carefully, because not only are you going to have some great things in there, but you might also have one of the special, really cool extra surprises in there.
I'm glad, and I'm so glad that you're talking about like the fun stuff, because, we've been talking about some serious issues in the industry, talking about safety. We're talking about, the heartbeat bill, talking about just how someone can get into the industry, that kind of thing. But the gala itself is a way to kind of bring people together.
Absolutely.
That they might know each other in a peripheral way or whatever, but then they have a chance to kind of mingle and have a fun time. So you got entertainment set up for the night. You got swag bags. What's some of the other stuff that you're going to be doing? I know you're doing the awards,
Right.
So like how is it all kind of going to mesh together?
So, people will come in. You'll come in on 43rd Street. Right there, Whitaker,
I forgot
43rd.
the paparazzi experience, or the red carpet experience, I should say.
Right.
Like when they come in, they're actually it's going to be like walking down the red carpet, right?
Exactly. You have a red
Right off the
carpet out
bat.
there. You have the place where you can stop and get you get a professional photo taken.
Yeah.
And afterwards, we'll put a who's who page up on the website. And but like I said, we'll have like several old cars from like the 1930s that you could stop and take photos with in your old Hollywood finery.
Yeah.
And then once you get in, there's going to be the live music, the open bar, some great food. Nick Mueller is providing us all the food that night.
Oh,
He's
wow.
got a new he's opened a new catering company in Effingham County called Magnife Catering Company. Magnife is Effingham spelled backwards.
No way.
Which I did not realize until he told me, and then I looked at it again and thought, how did I not realize
How
that?
did I not?
But now I can't not see it when I look at
Yeah.
it. But we just were talking about the menu yesterday. It's going to be so good, and it's not like a meal. It's all like past hors d'oeuvres and some stations, so that we're going to get food, but the food is going to be amazing. And then, you got the immersive dance experience. You're going to have, we talked about, the swag bags, what I'm really excited more than anything though, is going to be the ceremony itself. I'll tell you a couple things. Cyria Sandlin from WTOC is going to be the master of ceremonies.
Okay.
And she's
That's awesome.
very excited. She's going to do a great job.
She's super nice.
Yeah, very nice. And but we hired this company, Alien Works Productions. I shouldn't say we hired them. They're one of our sponsors, and they offered to create. I wanted a little video tribute to each of the 8 honorees.
Okay.
And one of the people with Alien Works called me after they had filmed these these tributes to the honorees. Each one's only 2 minutes, so
Yeah,
it's not.
yeah.
So I want things to move on quickly. You know, I want it to
Right.
to get, the whole ceremony. I don't want to be longer than an hour. You know, I want it to be, people are there to have fun.
They get antsy after that.
You're there to honor everybody. I want everybody to have plenty of time, get their moment in the spotlight. But I don't want it to drag either. I want it to be a fun night. So, but she called me after they had filmed and said, "You know what?" She said, "Until I interviewed these 8 people and they talked to me and I understood what they did and I heard the passion in their voice and I saw how much it meant to them to be recognized and honored. I didn't really get it until that moment."
Yeah.
And she said that, you know, I could not be more excited to be a part of this.
I think it's really awesome, Bo, that you and your team put this together. I was excited about having you on the show just to talk about this because I know to me it's like a really big deal that you're doing this. You know, there's different stuff out there. You know, that's cool. But the fact that and I knew some of the honorees, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. But the fact that you're, and for the folks just now tuning in, Charles Bowen is a local entertainment attorney, and you founded the Savannah Film Alliance, and we're talking about the Honors Gala that you have next Saturday.
Right.
So the one of the things that I thought was really cool about this event was that yes, it's going to have the glamour and the glitz and all the starlight and all that stuff, but the folks that you're giving awards to, that you're honoring, are the meat and potatoes of the industry.
Exactly.
They're the ones that are the working. They do the brunt of the work, or they're so passionate about what they do, but they're not the overbearing, demanding kind of people. They're the givers. They're the folks that actually give back more than they take or that they get. And I think that's one of the nice things about what you're doing, you and your team setting this up for them, because they do deserve that recognition.
Absolutely. I mean, think about really any industry. Think about you go to the airport, okay, and you go to check in at a counter. Every once in a while, you get that person who is so nice and so friendly and so helpful, and you walk away. It has now elevated your entire day, right? And but I guarantee you, that person is not getting an award at the end of the year gala for Delta Airlines,
right.
But they should, because those are the ones that have truly impact people's lives.
Yeah, service. I love servant leadership, and you do see people like that from time to time. They're rare, very rare.
It's I speak to groups on occasion, and one of the things I talk about, one of the topics I talk about sometimes is I have a speech I give about lessons I learned from Atticus Finch.
Oh, okay.
And I'm really talking more than anything about Gregory Peck's portrayal of Atticus Finch in the movie, even more so than the book. But what I talk about there is Atticus Finch is, if you were to take a group of people and say today, and say, give me the qualities of a great leader, what are you going to hear? You're probably going to hear somebody that's very loud, somebody that's forceful, somebody, Atticus Finch was the opposite of all of those things. Right. He was very soft-spoken. He did not demand things from others anymore, but he demanded a lot from himself. And if I learned anything from that character, it's that I try to instill, particularly in my clients and my corporate law work, when people are starting a new business and they say, I want to give them some advice on operating a new business and have it be successful. The two real lessons I learned are, what you want to shoot for is service to other people. How can you help other people and make every person you come into contact with make their day a better day? And second, being the best you can be at whatever it is. Wow. So if you concentrate on excellence and service, you are going to be successful. Wow. Everything else, financial success, all of that will follow. when you get people that come in and their goal in opening a new business is to make a lot of money, very rarely is that going to actually happen, because that's very obvious and it's off-putting to people.
Yeah.
But when you meet those, again, like you said, there's so few. But when you meet those people that are truly committed to service and excellence, you know it. You just feel it. You just
they don't have to
sense it.
say it. You just feel, like you say, you feel it, and you feel recharged by just being around them.
Exactly.
Like you said, at the end of the day, you're like, man, I had this long day. I've been traveling all day. I'm checking into this hotel. I don't know where. I've never been here before, and the concierge is just like, hey, how you doing today, Mr. Bowen? And you're like, oh, you can call me Bo. How are you doing today, Bo? They just actually care about you versus just trying to shuffle you through the process of checking you in and getting you to your room and getting you out of their hair. And there are a lot of people out there that act like you're imposing on them when they're doing their job.
Exactly.
Like I I'm not going to say the restaurant, but I went yesterday to pick up my son some lunch because where he works, he can leave for work sometimes, but yesterday was a day where he had to stay on site. And so I went to get him some food, and the person, I asked for a drink holder like 4 times, and the person was playing on their phone, and they were just, when I went up, I was the only person in the restaurant. I literally was the only person as a customer in the restaurant. And so that's the kind of person. Now, when I go to, like, say, Chick-fil-A or Publix, I don't usually have a bad experience there. Usually the people are like, oh, like, for example, Publix, you'll have somebody working in the grocery aisle, and you'll say, I'd like to get some, I want to get some, do y'all have any of that jackfruit in today? They will walk you over to the produce aisle and say, yeah, we've got this jackfruit right here. And they're working in a totally entire different section of the store. And I think the culture there, like you said, when they come in, I want to make a lot of money. Okay, that's not the order of things. That's not how it works. Like that one commercial, that's not how any of this works.
Right.
If you put service in there, and I mean, you can't give the store away, obviously, but you can make it better for someone else when they leave you. My dad used to always say, if you borrow something, leave it in a better condition than when you got it. I don't know. I like that. I'm really glad that you shared that.
And these 8 people that we're honoring next Saturday, September 28th. If you want tickets, SavannahFilmAlliance.org. Tickets are being sold through the venue, but there's a link on the website there.
And there's also a Facebook event page, right?
There's a Facebook event page which takes you right to the place to purchase tickets. But those 8 people are perfect embodiments of what you're talking about.
I agree.
They are.
I know half of them. I don't know the other half yet, but I do. I can say the ones that I do know. I agree with you completely.
Seeing. I only watched 2 or 3 of the little video tributes.
Yeah.
Because it was getting to me emotionally, because just seeing, how much it meant to them that someone stopped and said thank you. That was very touching to me, and it made it all worth it.
Speaking of super awesome people, Bill Cooper just came in the building. Everybody, he's getting ready to have his show up at 5. Hey, Bill, how you doing?
Wait, the Bill Cooper?
Bill,
how are you, sir?
Hey, Bill.
How you doing? Good to see you guys.
Yeah, we're talking about the Savannah Film Alliance Gala next week.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to take up a collection so I can go.
Yeah, so
I was going to hit you 2 first, so this is wonderful.
yeah.
That's great to see. Bill,
You been doing all right, Bill?
Yeah, super.
Yeah.
I'm walking again.
That
That's good.
is awesome. That is awesome. So
Bill and I have been in a play together in the past.
I was gonna say,
we
Bill
met.
knows like a ton of people too.
I was so impressed. Him and his one daughter.
Here, Bill, let me pull the mic over.
My now 18-year-old daughter, but she was like 15 at the time.
Yeah, right. That was a few years back. But I'm saying there's another talented family in Savannah. I can't count them anymore. Yeah, no, really, it was super.
Yeah, she had some lines that were maybe not quite appropriate for a 15-year-old, and every time she did them, I thought, I don't think I'm winning Father of the Year honors this year. But
Well, you know, I really don't know your daughter, but I guarantee she's heard those lines at school.
Of course, but that was a fun experience.
Yeah.
That's
But
awesome.
It really was. And that was one of those that we read. We didn't have to put it in our minds. That was beautiful.
Yeah, it was like an old-time radio show almost. Everybody just read their parts from sitting on stools on stage.
I love those one person plays and stuff. Bill, you want to sit? In with us for a few minutes?
Well, I read your mind.
Let me get you mic'd up over here, and I'll switch it around.
Okay.
I got this one on. Everybody, we're ad libbing here. We're community radio, so we can do this, right?
This is the best radio there is. I love it. I mean, if it turned professional, I'm going. See you. I mean, it's a pleasure doing what you want to do, and no one says anything, and people enjoy it.
Yeah,
really.
Right. Bill, you do some stuff around town too with different shows and all, right?
Well, yeah, I do stand-up comedy, and I've acted in plays and I've been in about 50 SCAD films and 3 big films, and just I'm enjoying my retirement.
Yeah, we were just talking about the honorees for the gala, and Bo was just sharing with us some of the principles of how you can serve others. I think you retired from the Postal Service, right?
Right.
Yeah.
27 years ago.
Yeah. And I think service is so important in any industry, really, and especially with the entertainment industry. Why watch anything? There's a reason why we call it entertainment, because we enjoy it.
Right.
And
it's interesting because the entertainment industry really is maybe the purest merit-based industry in the world, and that there is no one that walks right onto a movie set or a television set and they're the showrunner of The Walking Dead.
Right.
This is an industry where if you come in, yes, you're going to start at the bottom, but if you have a great attitude, you work hard, you will be noticed, you will advance, and you will advance quickly. And, there is not a single person in that industry that did not pay their dues in some way.
Yeah.
So
let me do a station ID real quick, because I can't believe it's already 4:30. I mean, gosh, I feel like we could talk all day, Bo. You're listening to WRUU LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with a Global Soul. And my special guest today has been Charles Bowen. Like I said, I had an uncle named Bo growing up. He passed on about 10 years ago, but I always loved that name, Bo. But we've been talking about the industry. We've been talking a lot of stuff today, Bill. Talking about the Heartbeat Bill. We were talking about how you can break into the industry. We're talking about the Gala Awards, the Savannah Film Alliance Honors Gala that's coming up.
May I ask, is that the first time that they've had this?
inaugural gala.
Wow, good. That's good. And I wish them the best. That sounds terrific.
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun night.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be great. Great music,
Yeah.
great food, great entertainment. It's going to be fun.
We got about a half an hour left. Bo, what's going on in the industry right now that maybe is kind of like behind the scenes that people that might want to pay attention to?
Behind the scenes.
Yeah, because you're in the know of stuff, and I mean, I'm sure sometimes I would imagine every once in a blue moon probably something sneaks up on you, but I kind of doubt that happens very often.
It's actually, this time of year is always a little bit slower anyway, but one thing that people need to look out for right now is the fact that so many things that filmed in Savannah over the past year or so are about to be released simultaneously.
Oh, okay.
Which is very exciting. So Lady and the Tramp, which filmed here, they, when it was filming here, they called it Goodbye Stranger, and it was the worst kept secret in the world that was actually a live action Lady and the Tramp movie.
Yeah,
but it's about to be released. Gemini Man, which filmed here, is about to be released. Peanut Butter Falcon, which was the Shia LaBeouf movie that has just got released a couple of weeks ago to rave reviews.
Right.
I mean, it's supposed to be fantastic. There's just a lot of different content that filmed in Savannah that's coming out. I'll tell you a story. We were talking earlier about, some of the people don't understand all of the things that go into these productions.
Yeah.
I saw something with Gemini Man that it blew my mind. I had never seen anything like it. They were filming a scene at night in Johnson Square, and it was supposed to be during a thunderstorm. Okay. So they built this grid which covered all of Johnson Square. It was I'd never seen anything. Now I'm on the top floor, the 10th floor of a building on Johnson Square. So I had it was a ringside seat to watch this going down. They built this huge grid over the entire square where the rain was coming down. It was like a giant sprinkler system. And then they brought in a crane that had this huge ball on it. I had no idea what it was. It's like the ball was like the size of this building, and it turned out it was a giant light that they suspended over Johnson Square, and it would flash, and that was the lightning.
No way.
During the storm. And I remember watching them do this and thinking, there has to be an easier way to simulate a thunderstorm.
Oh, my God.
When you have the money, though, you can go to that expense and probably get it the best you can, too.
It was just incredible.
Yeah.
And people, I talked to some friends that were working on the crew, and, they had worked on crews of movies all over the world, and I was asking, had you ever seen anything like this? They said, no, it's the first time.
It's so cool because that ties back into the other people in the industry, like a crane operator. If they could hire a crane operator locally, that means that they didn't have to, bring somebody in from out of town.
Absolutely.
So that just kind of resonates again with like what you're talking about. All these different needs for different jobs.
Yeah, I think that, Gemini Man is by far the largest movie in terms of budget size that ever filmed primarily in Savannah. More than double the next closest movie. And so I think it comes to theaters in October, and, it should really showcase the city. So that'll be exciting to see.
I have to say, the show that I was in, Bo, is going to be coming out in October. Pretty excited about it. It's like my first one.
Can you tell us what it was?
I'm not allowed to yet.
All right, then write it down and we'll tell.
But it's pretty cool. My friend Ryan Dunn, who does the Afterlife tours here in Savannah, the Ghost Tour Company, him and his wife, Kim Dunn, they do that. And then they have one in St. Augustine's. And he was being interviewed for the show, talking about some hauntings around Savannah. Because, people that are listening in that are not from the area, Savannah is one of the most haunted cities in the world. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, Savannah, there are a lot of unexplained things that go on here in Savannah. And so the show was talking about that kind of stuff. Go ahead, Bill.
No, I was going to say that they actually filmed an issue of Ghost Adventures at my home.
Oh, wow.
And I was the murderer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But
it was terrific. It really was. I mean, talk about professionals. Man, they were, anything I wanted, anything I asked for, it was there. They were terrific to work for. It really was. And as I say, so professional.
Yeah.
And a couple of the local actresses were in it with me. And it was fun.
Well, you were a murderer in the play that I was in with you. So
I'm starting to sense. Yeah. It used to be just homeless that they'd have me for. Oh, Bill, you dressed good for the homeless. I said, what are you talking about? I dressed up. My wife always says, she says, you look homeless when you go downtown. I says, how do you think I get my beer money?
Do you have like a cardboard fold up over there?
No, I'm getting there.
He didn't say fancy homeless.
Fancy homeless, yeah.
We'd have to get
I
you like
drink
one of these
cheap
pieces
beer.
of paper from the clipboard over here.
I kept spelling beer wrong.
But that was just an opportunity, like the thing with Ryan, that he made a thing saying that they were looking for extras. I just happened to be off work that day, and I didn't have a professional portfolio. I don't have a professional portfolio. I just sent a picture, and I sent like my I don't know, like my height and my weight and all that, and that kind of thing. I'd heard you could, if you send that kind of stuff, it helps them with costumes and whatever. And I just sent a headshot to the guy, and then the next thing I know, I'm talking to the producer on the phone, and he's just kind of feeling out the conversation, and bada boom, bada bing, and I was on set 2 weeks later.
Nice.
It just happened like that.
And like any good business, they want you to be there when they say.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If anyone that's interested in doing this, show up when you're supposed to be there.
Bo was talking
And
about
that's
that.
very important. No, it's like in any business, but in them especially, that's huge money if they have to wait for someone.
Very important. I never do anything, in front of the camera. My job always take place behind the scenes, but the one brush I had with any type of audition like that is actually one of the people we're honoring at the Honors Gala, Anthony Paderewski, was doing some local casting for that movie, The Gifted, that they filmed here. It's the one with, is it Chris, always good, is it Pine Evans? I think Chris Evans. Chris Evans was Captain America, right? Chris that's Captain America.
I feel bad because
he sure was.
Yeah, but it's him and
what do they call it? The
Jenny
Butt of America?
Slate was his wife, and they had a young daughter who was this genius, and they were fighting over whether to put her in public school or private school, and it's a really, really good movie filmed here in Savannah last year. And Anthony called me one day and he said, Bo, we had this person to play this college professor. The young daughter is attending this college math class, and she could just figure out this problem just off the top of her head. And that's when she blows everybody away with how smart she is.
Yeah.
But the actor dropped out. And it's only 3 lines. Would you mind coming over and reading for it? Because he kind of looked like you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, okay. He goes, do you want me to send them to you? I'm like, come on, dude, it's 3 lines. I can remember 3 lines. I'll just memorize it when I get there.
Yeah.
So I went over to Anthony's place, and what he didn't tell me, it was 3 lines, but it was 3 lines of the single most complicated math equations you have ever heard in your life.
Einstein.
All of these symbols. I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, reckon I'm not getting this part.
That's cool.
Sure enough, I did it.
Oh my gosh. That's like the friend that's like, hey, I've just got to move a couch.
Yeah, right. Don't ever retire and own a pickup truck. I made that mistake.
Yeah.
But you become part. Excuse me. I've got to step out. Great sitting in here for a few minutes with you guys. I want to make
Thank
sure
you, Bill.
that I meet my guests. And
Bill Cooper, everybody. He's got the Savannah at Night.
Savannah at Night, and our guest today is Jin Hee Susi and Chris Stanley. So another swell show coming your way, folks. Yeah.
Very good friends of mine.
Awesome.
Yeah, be sure to say hello. Good
Thanks,
to see you,
Bill.
Bill.
I'll see you in a few. Yeah.
All right, bud. Bill is a super nice guy. He's funny too. So it's just kind of weird, not weird, but interesting to me how interconnected folks are in Savannah. Like I didn't know you knew Bill, and he had actually done some work with him before.
And in fact, his guest Jin Hee.
Yeah.
The last play I did in Savannah was probably about 4 years ago. I played the narrator of Rocky Horror that they do every Halloween.
Okay.
And Jin Hee was my director.
Yeah, that's awesome. What was that like?
Well, it was interesting because, when they do Rocky Horror every year over at the Bay Street Theater.
Yeah.
And the director gets to put their own little spin on it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how familiar you are with The Big Lebowski.
Oh, I love The Big Lebowski.
But Jin Hee had the idea of having the narrator of The Big Lebowski be the narrator in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, the same character, literally. So I dressed exactly like Sam Elliott.
No way.
In Big Lebowski.
The dude is the dude.
Yeah.
Gotta have that.
Things aren't looking so good for the dude.
I was gonna say, you gotta have that gravelly.
Then it was, so I'm in full cowboy gear coming out in Rocky Horror going, well,
I love it. I love it.
I mean, it was crazy, but it really,
so cool.
it all came together. It was a blast.
My first experience with the Rocky Horror Show was they had a shadow production of it at GnomeCon, the little gaming convention here in Savannah, and GnomeCon, they're no longer do it anymore or whatever. They're no longer a thing, but they had this shadow performance of it, and I think I saw the movie when I was a kid, but I'd never been to a performance of it. And so they're talking about, oh, who are the virgins who haven't been here before? I mean, like, they had those people lined up, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm at NomeCon taking photos, right? I got my camera, and this girl comes over, and she puts her bright red lipstick and just puts a huge V on my forehead. And they made me get up on the stage with them at some point. I can't remember what it was, but I was like, I don't want to do this.
A rite of passage, Adam.
I know,
you have to
I know.
do it your first time.
I know. And then, like, the next year, I was like, ha ha, y'all got to do it.
Exactly.
I have not met, and is it Jen He? Is that how you say it correctly?
Yeah.
I have not met her in person yet, but my connection story to her is a friend of mine, Camilla Flynn, when Jen He had that Muse Arts Warehouse.
Right.
My friend Camilla, November 2013, did a show there called Explicit Lips, and it was it was a spoken word poetry show. They had performers in the middle of the stage, and they had a jazz band on the right-hand part of the stage, and then I was on the other side of the stage creating paintings of the pretty much of anything that I wanted to, but I did it mostly of like just stuff that the performers were talking about. And that was the first time I'd ever done anything in the public eye, any kind of anything, sharing my art, being in front of a group of people like that ever. So the next year I started doing photography and just getting into, some stuff. But how I kind of got interested in film, and I, like I said, I don't really do a lot of film, but I had a friend of mine that was doing his MFA at SCAD, and so I helped him. I was like a grip, I was like a PA, I did everything that he needed help with. I was like, yeah, I'll help you, whatever. So that was probably, I want to say 2004, 2005-ish, and so it kind of gave me a little taste of like, okay, this is what you got to do, but there's a lot more to it. So that's why I say, I'm still very inexperienced, but I admire the folks that are out there in the industry and that they want to make this their career. For me, I like it as far as like, if I've got a project that I can help a friend with or something like that, or like this, thing came up where I could be an extra, it's just something fun, something extra that I can say, hey, yeah, I did that.
You said you took part in the 48-hour film festival too, right?
Yeah, I was with the Killer Fish Productions that first year, 2014, and I was a set photographer. So I did a bunch of the. Matter of fact, if you go onto their Facebook page, a lot of the photos from that year are from me. Okay. So, but it was kind of neat, and I haven't done a 48-hour film festival since then, but. Talking about the little videos, the 2-minute videos, whenever I covered an event, I used to like to do little videos like that too. And I still try to do like little promo videos or whatever, but I think it's always about the audience. I always try to think like, what does the audience want? How can I serve the audience? What would they find interesting? So I love the fact that you were talking about, service and excellence earlier, because the money will come later on, and yes, we have to eat, we have to pay our bills, but if that's the first thing you have on the forefront of your mind, people can sense that.
Yeah, you're right.
They know that.
Another thing that's when we were talking earlier about Atticus Finch.
Yeah.
One of the great takeaway I took from that book and that movie is he had such high standards for himself.
Yeah.
There's a great scene where his daughter Scout is talking to him and says, if people are saying you shouldn't take this case, then why did you do it? And he says, because the one thing that if I didn't do what I believed was right, I'd never be able to hold my head up in this town.
Yeah.
I'd never, it's my conscience is not decided by majority rule.
Yeah.
But while he had that level of,
moral character
and that expectations that he set for himself,
mm-hmm.
what was amazing about him is that he did not then also require the same from other people. He only expected from other people what he knew they were able to give.
Yeah, that's like a good coach. Any good coach is going to be able to recognize, like, hey, I'm going to push you a little bit because I know you can do more, but I'm not going to give you unrealistic expectations because you might be good. Like you were talking about, I could do 3 lines, and it's like something, totally out of your element, but if you're a mathematician,
exactly,
you'd be like, I've got this. I know the Pythagorean theorem on the top of my head.
Famous scene where Bob Ewell goes up to him after the trial and spits in his face in front of his son.
Yeah.
And his son is like expecting, he doesn't know what's going to happen. His Atticus is going to punch him, and he just takes his glasses off, wipes them off, and drives his son home. And he says, and his son is furious. His son is like, why didn't you fight back? Why didn't you do something? How could you let him get away with that? He said, son, that's a gentleman that because of the way he was raised, he just simply doesn't know better. I took away his dignity in court today, and that was the only way he knew to strike back.
Yeah.
And if by attacking me, that saved one of those children in his house an extra beating, then I was happy to take it. And that's such a valuable lesson to me because, it's kind of like they say, how do you know you've won or you've lost a political argument on Facebook? You're in a political argument on Facebook.
Amen to that, brother.
It's, no negative comment or, biting remark has ever swayed anyone's opinion ever. But leading by example like that is that can truly change people.
Oh, I love that, Bo. That is, people. One of the things people ask me, because I do different things, like I write and I do the radio show and stuff like that. They're like, well, how do you do all these different things? I'm like, it's all interrelated, and to me, storytelling, entertainment, all goes back to storytelling. Why do we talk? I mean, like the stories that we tell ourselves, the stories we talk about, we've been talking about different stories. We've been, exchanging different stories for the last 2 hours. It's just storytelling. And, like you said, with that scene, that is so relevant still today, and that is because it's a human condition.
Right.
We can look back, why do people study the philosophers from 2,000 years ago? Why do people still study the Bible or, the Quran or whatever? Why do they still? Because those are stories about the human condition.
Right. It's that Atticus Finch had an almost superhuman empathy, and that's what's so rare today is the ability to view things from the other person's point of view.
I love that, Bo. I just finished listening to a book called I Hear You by Michael Sorensen. He's actually going to be on the show. And the book is about empathetic listening. And empathy, I think, is one of the superhuman powers that we have. You don't have to necessarily say, I agree with you on your position on this, but I can understand you. I can empathize and I can understand why you feel that way. That doesn't mean I have to feel that way.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that I have to demonize you for feeling that way. I can understand you. And empathy is so, it is so underrated. I mean, I think people just don't really take that into account. And that's a skill set that I've been trying to work on and developing myself, because I want to be more empathetic. I want to be a better listener. I feel like that skill set is something that I can continue to work on. I'm not the best listener in the world. I mean, I'll admit that. I try. I have to work at it. And other times where people are like, oh, you're such a great listener. I have to work at it. And I think that's anything that you want to do. Like we've been talking about film, you're honoring these people that are out there that I feel like that they're the service leaders. They're the folks that are out there doing, that. And I'm sure that those folks are empathetic. I'm sure that they have, they can understand why if you're coming in at, 10, 11 o'clock at night, checking in, that, why you would, just want to have a nice greeting and, friendly face, somebody being polite to you.
It really does, just speaking as a corporate attorney and advising my clients, it is something that carries through every industry.
Yeah.
Like even myself as an attorney. Okay, think about if I've got my client in there and I'm trying to get a case settled. Okay, One mistake that so many lawyers make is that their client is right, period. And this is what we want. This is what we're entitled to. But you know what? When you're involved in a negotiation, if you only ever compare the offer to your best case scenario, then you're never going to get that resolved.
Yeah.
So, but if you can convince your client to compare it not just to the best case scenario, but also to the worst case scenario,
Yeah.
to try to put themselves in the shoes of the other person. And actually, I'll ask him, tell me in the best words you can how you believe the other person feels. What do you believe their side of the case is? What are they thinking and feeling right now? And when you can put them in that frame of mind and you can convince the other side to look at it from your own client's frame of mind, then that's when you're able to get things resolved. And that's why I say it doesn't matter what profession you're in.
Yeah.
When you think about the people that you are working for and that you are trying to provide a service to, and you could think, what can I do to make this the best possible experience for them? You're going to be successful.
I think that is so critical and so key to communications. You know, we have so many things that we do in a day. In the book, the guy was talking about, you know, we have about 500 actions that we take in a day. And those actions, you know, a lot of them are on autopilot, you know, and we don't think about the other person most of the time. Most of the time we're thinking about ourselves, not in a selfish way, but, you know, just as a survival type way. You know, like our brain can only handle so much information at one time. And, yeah, so I think taking that step back and saying, hey, you know, like you said, how does the other person feel? You know, what's going through their mind? How is this affecting them as well? You know, and can you empathize with them or not? Because I'm sure that people are like, I know there are a lot of people like, oh, I don't care what they think. But,
Well,
you know,
if you want to come out and help honor 8 people who embody those types of ideals, then this upcoming weekend, next Saturday, September 28th, that's your chance to do it.
that's awesome.
The Savannah Film Alliance Honors Gala, Victory North, September 28th, savannahfilmalliance.org. Tickets still available.
Yeah.
It's really, you know, we've got not only, like, you know, we talked about all the different fun things, but do you know Trey Gurley?
No.
Trey has been around, you know, Savannah for quite a while, and he's an amazing vocalist, and but he's really well known for singing like old standards like Sinatra and jazz greats and things like that.
Yeah.
And so he's going to be performing for 2 hours. During the opening out in the courtyard between 6:30 and 8:30 from where we first opened until the presentation starts. We'll have Kim Steiner, who is a world-class pianist, is going to be out there accompanying him. Ginger's going to be performing one of the songs off her new album during the ceremony. Trey's going to sing a song during the ceremony. Liquid Ginger's going to be performing live during the after party out in the courtyard.
Yeah.
We're going to have the immersive dancers. We're going to have some of the best food you've ever put in your mouth, you know, open bar, which is key.
Yeah.
You know, to a good party in Savannah. Everyone knows that.
Yeah. They say if you provide adult beverages, they will come. Bo, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
It's really been a blast, Adam.
Yeah.
I truly appreciate the invitation.
I got to have you back on. We're going to have to have you back on. So everybody, you've been listening to the Adam Messer Show, and Bo Bowen has been our special guest today. And you can check the podcast out later on. I'll have it posted tonight. But, yeah, definitely check out the Savannah Film Alliance Honors Gala next Saturday, y'all. There's still tickets available, and it sounds like it's just going to be just one heck of a shindig. You know, so that's awesome, Bo. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Up next is Savannah at Night, so hang tight.